What up, Hyperchange? Give me a thumbs up in the chat. We are live. We are talking about Warren Buffett, who recently disclosed that his company Berkshire Hathaway has taken a position in Chevron. Hyperchange, investing in the future you believe in, going for the sustainable future. Obviously, beefing with this. Warren Buffett, someone I've said who is an idol of mine. Someone I looked up to. I've recommended his book, The Snowball, on this channel. He's what got me into investing, this whole concept of compounding your wealth, value investing. I believe all investing is value investing. I think investing in Tesla is value investing. And I just think this is a huge moment in financial history. And it's kind of a slice of time that I wanted to magnify to share a lot of thoughts about how we think about investing, what is the point of investing, why do we invest, just the whole way that works. I think there's so much to dissect here because Warren Buffett, he's 90 years old or something like that. He pioneered value investing. He was a student of Benjamin Graham, who I believe was a professor at Columbia University, wrote, the Bible of value investing. I'm like blanking on the name right now, but The Intelligent Investor. And so Warren Buffett really is almost thought of like when you think of like Aristotle or Socrates and these people who like shaped philosophy, Warren Buffett truly shaped philosophy about investing in financial markets. And that's why I think he's an idol of so many people, this idea of compounding wealth. He was only worth a couple billion in his 60s, but now he's worth was one of the richest people on the planet just by rolling his snowball, practicing compounding, buying the right business at the right, businesses at a cheap price. He has so many sayings and, just pioneered this sort of finding discrepancies in value in the stock market and maximizing it. And that is incredible. And that's, all value investing is value investing. I think innovation is significantly underpriced in the public markets. You can find CEOs building amazing technology companies with the world connected, growing faster than we would have ever have imagined in history, and invest in them. And the market doesn't appreciate it. And you have huge opportunity to make all of this money. So I think investing in technology companies is as much value investing as what Warren Buffett does. But we got this news, guys. This is so whack because he was building up a large position. This isn't a small position. This was $4.1 billion. Some people were actually speculating it was Tesla. I made a video about it. I mean, for those who know about hyperchange, in 2017 or 2018, I believe, I put out a video saying Warren Buffett should buy 5% of Tesla or invest $5 billion in Tesla at about $300 per share pre-split. So that's like $60 a share, would have gone up more than 10x. I thought it would have hedged against so many parts of his business that I think are liable for disruption due to Tesla, which we're going to get into today. So I've been pounding the table being like, Warren Buffett, buy Tesla, buy Tesla, buy Tesla. This is the future. We're all going electric. It's the next great American brand. And then next thing you know, he bought Chevron. That's what came out today. And so this, I guess it's not that much news. We know Warren Buffett's the GOAT. We know he's old school. We know he likes value investing, cheap companies. That's what you saw in Chevron. But a part of me just almost felt like I died today because it's just dude, Warren Buffett, I don't know. I just think there's such a disconnect that really frustrated me about investing, where are we investing just to make money? And are we literally looking at every business on a spreadsheet that exists in this world that we don't think we personally live in? Or do we want to invest in the future we believe in and invest in companies that are changing the world and building it to something we want? And I just think that's such an important precedent to set. And that's something that I pound the table on with my channel on, is invest in the future you believe in. And I think there's a huge paradigm. I left New York City. And I think one of the reasons I left was because of this mindset of everyone there just literally invests to make money. They just live on a spreadsheet. I don't give a crap what business I'm buying. I just want my investment to go up the most as possible. It's just about me, my perspective, not about what's good for the planet, not a systems approach, not thinking about other stakeholders. And I just think that's such a wrong mentality. And I think everything about Buffett buying Chevron now leans into that mentality. And that's why it's so frustrating me. And I kind of wanted to make this video to talk about, how I think the millennial generation and Gen Z, we're changing the perception of what a company is and what value is. I mean, this goes so deep. When you think about just beyond oil, the fact that Warren Buffett looked at financial statements to judge companies, in the 50s and 60s, when he was grabbing an SEC filing, he had to mail in to get an SEC filing. He's just looking at the stocks with the cheapest PE ratio that are solid businesses that are making cash flow that nobody else can find because the internet doesn't exist, and buying them. He was looking in the, rear view mirror at financial statements to understand businesses, which is still an important building block of how we do it. But I think Wall Street and the whole financial system is way too involved in reading financial statements and trying to, living on Excel to try and understand a business, when so much of business is just people and products. And to really understand a business, you got to spend time with people and the products. And I think there's been a whole shift in this mentality of investing from, instead of looking at the rearview mirror, being like, wait, and I think Tesla perfectly embodied this. So that's why this discussion to me is so fascinating, is Tesla had bad financial statements. I mean, they were losing a bunch of money. We all kept pounding the table being like, have you ever tried to build 100,000 electric cars or 1 million electric cars? Oh, thanks for the super chat. You're going to require billions of dollars up front. And so that's why they're losing money now, because we're spending up front to make the profit later. But everyone in Wall Street, it sounds so simple now. I know this sounds like ridiculously simple, but I think that was the biggest misstep of why Wall Street didn't get Tesla, because the profits weren't going up in a straight line. And so this entire way that you would understand Tesla was looking ahead at the technology, at the disruption, betting on a market that didn't exist yet, electric cars. There was only, a handful of a few thousand electric cars sold every year. Why would you bet, pay top dollar premium valuation multiple for a company that's already priced in to be 10 times bigger than its market? It makes no sense unless you think, forward instead of looking backward. So I think everything about Warren Buffett's Chevron investment is looking in the rear view mirror at a business that used to be profitable, that used to look good, and now is just frankly dying. And I think you can even take a look at, I have hyper charts here. Pulled up for Chevron, which I think is hilarious. Oh, this is actually one thing I wanted to show y'all first. This is Berkshire Hathaway stock against the S&P 500, which I think is really interesting, because Warren Buffett, as much as he's sort of like an idol of ours, has kind of been underperforming for years, and has actually underperformed the S&P in the past 5 years, and in the past 10 years, and in the past 2 years, and in the past 1 year. So Warren Buffett has chronically performed the S&P. I say buying Berkshire Hathaway is basically like buying the S&P 500 without the good tech stocks. That's basically what it is. And yeah, I think the only good the tech stocks are where all the value is, and that's why the companies underperform. So this isn't me crazy talking about Warren Buffett's looking in the rearview mirror, but I really think there's an element to all of this that is I'm going to pull up the financials of Chevron just so we can go through the numbers with y'all to show you. This is what Chevron's financials are. As you can see, has been declining dramatically because of coronavirus, and even before the coronavirus was already shrinking as a company. Profitability getting hit. This trajectory of constantly growing and expanding has finally been hit. And you have a significantly more expensive company now that is just, these financials speak for themselves. It was an awful year. They finally lost money, and Chevron still pays a dividend. And so that's what's so interesting about these stocks. We can get into this part of the theory is, most people holding Chevron stock are holding it because of the dividend, which is so fascinating, because they're not looking at the financial statements. They're just expecting to get this payout. And so then the second that payout stops, all the shareholders freak out because they're not getting a dividend, and the stock just crumbles. And so the problem with companies like Chevron is they're in this dividend aristocrats sort of bucket of these companies who have raised their dividend for, decades and never not raised their dividend. And so investors kind of just give them all this benefit of the doubt and brand equity that the dividend will continue. But now that whole dividend, I think the principle of Exxon being profitable is changing. As you saw their financials, they're losing money now. I think that entire theory and just it's a massive house of cards, I think, and it's been significantly overinflated because the dividend has propped up the valuation and has sort of protected them from true financial analysis. So I don't know. I think it's fascinating, and I do think we're still going to need to rely on oil for the next decade or two as we transition to electric vehicles. But what I think is so important is the idea about investing in things that are awesome and sustainable in the future. Forward-thinking endowments are divesting from fossil fuels. Forward-thinking sovereign wealth funds are divesting from, even Saudi Arabia is divesting from fossil fuels. You know what I mean? They're the king of oil. That's the other thing of why I think Chevron and a lot of these oil companies are just frankly horrible economic propositions. I mean, you're not competing in the free market against other oil companies that are small. You're competing against nation states with far lower costs of capital, far lower extraction costs than you. I mean, I think as the demand for oil dwindles, you get a significant pricing war going on where nation states gets more desperate and cut costs dramatically. And you have a decades-long, price sink for oil as demand is frankly falling and supply is overblown. And then what does that create? That creates all the companies are going bankrupt way before the nation states do because they can just hold on longer. So I think that's another fascinating proposition of where it just makes so little sense on so many levels. But getting back to the important positivity part of this, I just think it's so important that us as sort of young investors and people looking at the markets now make this connection that I'm putting my money, like I feel like we lost the idea of like, what is investing? Like, it's like, okay, like I'm in my little town. I see a guy down the street who's like got an idea. He's in his garage. He's like scheming and tinkering. He's like, yo, I'm like so close to building my prototype of my thing, but I just need a couple $100 more to get this part. And I already maxed out all my own money. And if you give me that couple $100, I can actually build this product and then we can actually bring it to the world. And then you know, and you're like, wait, that's going to be a dope thing. I want to give that, you know, I want to see that product spread. I want to see this change occur. And that's why you invest in something. You invest in the future you believe in, and you actually invest in businesses to create them. And so I think we've totally lost that concept. And that's why, you know, getting this Buffett Wall Street mentality of like, it's just a spreadsheet, businesses on a spreadsheet, how do we make the most money, is such a backwards way of looking at companies. And I even wonder, like, in the future, you know, money is just a symptom of like, okay, the company generates money so we can have money so we can get stuff. Well, what if we just want the stuff the company's building? You know, I'm a Tesla shareholder. Most of the stuff I want is just stuff that Tesla's building. What's the point of cashing it into fiat and then paying Tesla in fiat? Like, is the future of, you know, like, should I be an investor in a company to use their service? Like, I don't know. I think there's a real kind of awakening occurring at where we're actually realizing that these aren't just spreadsheets. There's actually a business behind every stock, and those businesses are all totally different, and they're all doing things in the world. And, you know, the stock market is a very real way that we dictate the way those businesses change the real world. Like, if we're continue to giving Chevron capital to do new projects, they're just going to keep drilling oil. But if we all stop funding them to give them new projects, then they won't. And I don't know, this is the part of the world that really frustrates me, is like, negative externalities. This is the thing that I think is the biggest problem that I will face in my lifetime, and all of us will face, is companies like Chevron that are polluting don't pay for that pollution. It's an externality of their business model that they don't actually see. So there's all of these negative externalities. Like, I like to say the Starbucks example. Even Starbucks. I love Starbucks. I'm a Seattle guy. But like, every time I get a cup from Starbucks and I throw it away, I feel like I didn't pay to throw away that cup. Starbucks didn't pay to throw away that cup. We're just piling it up somewhere and just, you know, have dedicated some portion of land to composting that cup. So I think there's so many negative externalities that like companies like Chevron and Exxon have done with just fossil fuel pollution, with destroying the natural environment, with going into, you know, smaller countries who don't know what's happening and taking advantage of local people, just taking their land and saying, we're going to do it for oil, not giving them the money they promised. Like, this is what these companies do. It's literally they're in the business of exploiting the world's beautiful natural resources, ruining them, spilling half of them in the ocean, and then selling it for profit. Like, it's so despicable. And I think almost to the point where we have so much new technology occurring, and it's so critical that we invest in new technology. I think in retrospect, it would be criminal to continue funding these oil enterprises. I'm a huge proponent of an oil carbon tax. I mean, I think there's that, to me, that's the biggest way to fix these negative externalities. We're like swiping like a credit card for our future that all of our children are going to have to pay for by just polluting and then letting them deal with it in 50 years. Like, I think we're going to look back and say that that's criminal. And so that's why I think it's horrible to be funding these enterprises. And for people like Buffett, sure, he'll be dead by the time any of this matters, but, you know, don't you want your legacy to outlive your life? Like, I think it's just so sad to me that people don't invest. Like, I don't know. I just think that the carbon tax thing, the fact that that's controversial blows my mind, because I think it's such a short-term sighted thing. Like, the obvious profitable net present value for humanity is to invest in clean energy as fast as possible. It just makes mathematical sense. And that's why I also think if I was the US government right now and we had 0% interest rates, I'm issuing 100-year bonds for 1% interest rate. I'm issuing trillions of dollars of bond to reinvent our entire energy infrastructure to go sustainable and renewable right now. I don't know why we're not accessing the capital markets. Look at what China's done. They're literally building as much, like, you know, all those stats about China using more concrete than the US did in like all, you know, decades in like 1 year. Yeah, maybe China's overbuilding, but they're also taking advantage of massive, cheap capital that they can literally print off a printing press to build real world physical assets. A genius move. And nobody in our government can figure that out. And so when I look at, I don't know, it's just, I'm getting a little off track here, but it's just so disappointing to me that the US isn't run as efficiently as some of our world leading companies like Amazon or Tesla. You know, imagine if we had that same sort of strategic direction and organization at our government. I think that would be huge. But I don't know. So I just see this as a symptom of so much of what is wrong with the world. And I kind of wanted to use my platform to speak out and be like, yeah, it's really whack to invest in oil companies. I got my grandma, shout out to Grammy, she's awesome. She was invested in oil companies, had a bunch of dividend stocks, but I just kept annoying her about it. And I was like, yo, this is whack. Like, I wanted to not live in an oil world. Like, come on. And so, you know, step by step, you change people's minds. Now, Grammy's divested from fossil fuels. It's a shame she's so far ahead of Warren Buffett. but you know what I mean? Yeah, so I don't know. And it's also sad because it's like the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. Like Warren Buffett is doing this to make money. Like he's putting profit over people on the planet, and yet he's not going to make any money. Like this is the dumbest investment ever. So if you're an investor in Berkshire Hathaway, so Berkshire Hathaway, the company that Warren Buffett owns, this multi-hundred billion conglomerate, they have the Super Bowl for investors where everyone goes in Omaha. I don't think they had it this year because of COVID, but it was incredible. And everyone in finance looks up to it and is the GOAT. And it's this kind of mecca of finance. But when you actually look at what Berkshire Hathaway has become from a basket of assets, this is garbo. Like the actual assets that Warren Buffett owns, it's all these super low IRR, like real world physical businesses that are locked in, that are just literally just waiting to be disrupted. So I don't know if this will be too boring, but I did pull up the 10K. So this is the latest SEC filing, annual filing for Berkshire Hathaway, to just go through and show you what's in the beast. What is Warren Buffett actually scheming on? We can check this out. So this is the 2019 one because the 2020 one hasn't come out yet. So this right here is their investment portion. So these are the investments they hold. We hold 15 common stock investments at year end. Anyway, yeah, so these are some of the investments they had, not businesses they own. But what I thought was funny to point out here, and I just scrolled past this as a random thought, was that it's all financial institutions. Like I used to think Buffett was a joke because I'm like, okay, well, guess what? Geico's getting disrupted by Tesla. McLean's getting disrupted by Tesla. All of his energy assets are getting disrupted by Tesla. So what's he doing with the profits of these, criminal energy businesses? What is he doing with those? Oh, he's buying financial companies. He's buying American Express, Bank of America, the Bank of New York Mellon, a cable company, Charter Communications, Coca-Cola, selling sugar water, Delta Airlines, burning fossil fuels. I mean, Delta Airlines is solid. I actually like Delta, but still. Goldman Sachs, I mean, we know they're getting disrupted. Like JP Morgan, Moody's, literally selling ratings for profit, just the most unethical business that should not be a for-profit business at all. Like he's also milking that. Southwest Airlines, Continental. It's interesting that he's got so many airlines. But it's not like he's buying airlines and pushing them to go green. He's buying airlines and probably delaying their green projects to maximize cash flow, knowing how he works. And then you got Visa and Wells Fargo. So everything he's doing is going to get disrupted by Bitcoin, Stripe, or pretty much Bitcoin or Stripe or Square are going to disrupt every single company that he's invested in. So it's even funny because the profits, there's only so many profits that are going to come from Buffett's dying empire here. And so what he does with those profits will dictate the future of how his empire and legacy unfold in the next 50 years. So that's why me pounding the table saying we should probably invest in Tesla at 50 billion, that's the kind of shit that would have saved him. We should probably invest in Bitcoin instead of buying Wells Fargo, dude. Like, it's just kind of a no-brainer here. I mean, but that's what Warren Buffett is doing. And I think it's so funny and ironic that he's still thought of as this incredible thought leader and that Berkshire Hathaway is still thought of as this incredible business when it's just a collection of garbo assets. And when I was actually pitching him to buy Tesla, I went through, shout out to K-Bone, we spent like days pouring through the SEC filings just to be blown away at how many businesses actually are affected by Tesla, that Tesla's going to disrupt. So one of his most famous businesses is Geico, government employee insurance. And I'm scrolling through the 10K. If you see my eyes, I'm going to find some good parts of it, some juicy stuff here. But Geico is all car insurance. So the entire car insurance business. So okay, if I'm in a meeting with, I'm gonna turn on my my scheme hat to be in a meeting with Berkshire right now to tell them, okay, Geico, this is one of our largest investments. Geico is an entire data business. Yes, it's insurance, but it's really all about data. All our profits and cash flow and competitive advantage, our moat, so to speak, all relies on the data we have and how we analyze and interpret that data to give the best and most accurate rates for drivers. There's an impending massive disruption to the data flow of the entire vehicle insurance market. And it's because cars are not these legacy boxes, these clunkers filled with fossil fuel burning stuff. They're actually computers on wheels. And there's a two-way data flow over the air with this company called Tesla that's basically like Apple, but for your car, and that literally is tracking how I move the wheel, how I press the brake, when I disengage autopilot. Probably 10 times is probably a joke. It's probably 1,000 times more data than your crappy Toyota is getting. I mean, to send back to Geico. So we have a massive double order of magnitude disruption in the data flow in the vehicle industry, which is the single moat that you have as a company. So if I was Geico, I don't even know what I would do. I would have bought you have to be, why is Tesla building their own in-house insurance company? Why is Rivian, the other number 2 dope EV startup, building their own in-house insurance company? Because they know the future is autonomous. It will be proprietarily insured by the OEM operator. So nobody's going to have a third-party vehicle insurance. That's totally dying and going away. You're going to use Tesla insurance because half the time you're driving, the car's going to be driving itself, and that liability needs to go onto Tesla. So they have to build out this in-house insurance software suite. So this is an inevitability that your business is literally getting less relevant by the day. I mean, it's a joke. Like, it actually just cracks me up that this is even a conversation, because the amount of data in your Tesla, like, it's literally all a computer. And then you go into like these crappy old school cars and it's like a clunky analog device. Like, to think that you will compete on that level is just like, it's a joke, some of these conversations at the Berkshire boardroom. And so I think the autonomous, like, are they even going to risk autonomous vehicles as a risk factor in their SEC filing for Geico? Probably not. So there's so many different, fascinating ways that I think Elon Musk's empire is totally going to put Warren Buffett's, basically everything that he's doing out of business. I think it was like 50% of his revenue. So another big business he operates is McLane. McLane is a trucking company here. They're a huge company. They basically, distribution services in all 50 states. 7-Eleven, Yum Brands, basically distributing like really crappy food to all these fast food restaurants. And it's like burning fossil fuels to do it. And so it's a logistics network. And so when I think about a logistics network, I think the first thing being disrupted by a logistics network is electric autonomous semi-trucks. Wonder who's building those. So the amount of businesses that we could just walk through: Berkshire Hathaway Automotive, one of the largest automotive retailers in the country, great business, 106 vehicle franchises through 82 dealerships. I mean, this is an absolute joke. We all know dealerships make money by your cars breaking. They hate selling electric cars. Every new vehicle startup that is taking off right now is going direct to consumer, not relying on dealerships. The fact that Warren Buffett owns this and was invested in it, I mean, it's like I actually think you couldn't pick a worse basket of businesses. Oh, the home furnishing business in Nebraska, great, because we all know that furniture stores are not getting disrupted, and middlemen who distribute furniture is such a great business instead of going direct to consumer with all these new furniture startups. Like this is like, oh, Jordan operates a retail furniture business from 6 locations with 770,000 square feet of what's about to be a totally useless retail space. So I think Berkshire Hathaway is probably rated an A+ asset. I think this is going, I don't know. I don't want to trash on it too hard, but my point is once you actually start looking at these businesses and what Buffett owns, I'm trying to find the actual sort of breakdown of the revenues of this, because it'll blow your mind of how much of this is from Geico and from McLane and from all of these businesses that you can tell are just ripe for disruption. The other big thing he's been pushing into is energy. I think he brought a big oil and gas company recently, even beyond Chevron. And so, railroad, that's another one. So the railroad pretty much, so the railroad is Burlington Northern. So this railroad he bought, I think, is the most genius asset that he owns. He should be immediately partnering with Elon Musk to start building out a hyperloop or some sort of boring company tunnel to advance and upgrade this railroad infrastructure. Because I think the hardest part about a railroad is the land, right? Like, how do we get one piece of land that goes all the way through the country? Like, that's ridiculous. And so that is an incredible asset that they have that they've just done nothing with, to not modernize, to milk cash flow. And it's about to get disrupted because they've taken so long that the next platform technology is about to come out, and that's autonomous semi-trucks. What did Elon Musk say about the Tesla Semi that's so incredible? It's going to make freight so much cheaper. It's going to compete with rail. The rail market is going to shrink because electric autonomous semi-trucks are going to be so much cheaper. You're not even going to want to ship stuff on a train anymore or railroad. So the amount, I could spend hours doing this, but the amount of, railroads up 5%. They're saying that's great. So I don't know. Insurance underwriting, the amount of insurance businesses. I mean, wow. Oh, sorry. I should let y'all look about this. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. But, wow. Yeah. So this is all the insurance business, railroad business, utilities and energy business. So anyway, I kind of wanted to end on maybe like some good notes about Buffett. So I think one thing that Buffett brought to the markets, which actually I think everybody could use a reminder of today, is value investing. There's a company behind every stock. So, and I think all investing is value investing. And I think this is such an important concept. And it's why, even though I'm hyperchange and I'm going to hate on Buffett or his investments, I love Buffett as a person, I guess, but is because, he's doing value investing, or he's trying to do it his way. But all investing is value investing. I think this is such an, I think Tesla was undervalued. I just thought of the value a totally different way than reading the financial statements, because I think that's kind of archaic. So, the ways in which we determine value, the ways in which markets perceive value will change, but all investing is value investing. And so I think that is, to me, the lesson that Warren Buffett has imbued on markets and everyone, is that, I don't know, price matters. And I think too many people who are getting into the stock market, getting into crypto, getting into GameStop, that's dope. But do you know what the market cap of GameStop is? Do you know what the market cap of your crypto assets are? I don't know. I think there's, not enough people still understand the true value of what they're investing in and that concept. And so I think that will go down in all time and forever. And that's why I credit all my investing success to Warren Buffett, honestly, or so much of it. He gave me my investing philosophy that, is the reason why I found Tesla, because I realized there was value that was being mispriced. And I think the greatest thing happening in public markets right now, which, is value investing, Buffett just doesn't see it, and unfortunately is on the wrong side of it, is that innovation is massively underpriced, and stagnancy, or I guess companies being fat, bloated, and not innovating, is severely overpriced. Cash flow is significantly, people placed way too much emphasis on profitability and cash flow, which first of all can be super manipulated by accountants. And just, I don't know. So I think there's, and it's interesting because, do companies in the future even make profit? This is something I struggle with a lot. What's the point? Will Tesla ever make a profit, or will they just keep expanding? I mean, look at what Amazon's done. They didn't make a profit for 20 years. They still haven't paid a dividend. And they're totally changing the norm. And they had this massive arbitrage where they didn't have to pay taxes to compete with Walmart because they weren't being profitable. They were just reinvesting everything. And so I wonder if that's a symptom of extremely low interest rates, that every single company on the planet right now just decides to invest and not pay out shareholders. But that's something I think a lot about, and I would love, those are the things that I want to talk to Buffett about. It's where does he see that going? Does he see the pendulum swinging back with interest rates going higher and markets normalizing and PEs, equalizing and calibrating? Or are we just in uncharted territory here? Is the fiat system, definitely broken in the fact that we have negative interest rates that are coming up? The spiral of us accelerating dilution of fiat and printing more and more will just continue to accelerate. Is that the weird, wacky, dystopian financial future we live in, where half our transactions are in Dogecoin? That seems almost more than these old people saying interest rates are going to bounce back. The Fed's got the control on the economy. If anything has happened recently, like Tesla's buying Bitcoin, all these people are buying Bitcoin. It's totally set off the domino effect. It's that, people are not waiting around. I think we're clear, and it's decentralized. We're seeing the erosion of trust in the fiat system and legacy institutions erode at an accelerating clip. And I see no fundamental reason for that to reverse. And so, I don't know. I think it's almost like Warren Buffett buying Chevron is the last nail in the coffin of Wall Street dying. The last decade or century of Wall Street is dead. Nobody gives a shit about what CNBC thinks. Nobody's reading financial statements the same way. Nobody cares about the book ratio. We all knew that was happening, but it feels like Warren Buffett making his probably what's going to be one of his worst investment decisions ever in buying Chevron is cementing that. And just how lack of forward thinking it is. I don't know. It's just, I really hope that there's billions of dollars is so much money. How many people's lives could you affect? How many startups could you fund? How many little projects and ideas could you do? How many could you pay a company to clean up your local lake? Could you pay somebody to pick up trash in your neighborhood? Could you fund some schemer who has a dope new idea and project or sustainability thing? How much could we do with $1 billion? It's unbelievable what you could do with that. And so tens of billions, whatever Warren Buffett has, and his isn't like Elon Musk where it's locked up in companies. His is actually sitting there ready to invest. And what is he doing? He's like, I'm going to buy Chevron, $4 billion worth of Chevron. I'm going to buy billions worth of Wells Fargo. Just like the dumbest ideas and just such a waste of capital. Like Warren Buffett's legacy could have been incredible if he had used all of this money and capital to change the world, to push it forward, to make his mark, not to just milk profits from dying businesses that we all know are killing the planet and ruining our future. Like, that's just so, it's just, I actually think it will go down as almost borderline criminal and definitely immoral, and will permanently scar his legacy, which is one reason I'm really trying to get loud about this idea. Cause it's like, bro, like turn around, like turn it around. Like, I don't know, like look at what, people like Dave Portnoy, they're ridiculous, but look about the Barstool Fund. That's so dope. Look about Elon Musk donating $100 million to a carbon capture prize to get shit done. Like, this is the new wave of billionaires that I think is super duper inspiring and gets me pumped. And I think the kind of, activist investor, which was something, I think we're going to like the activist investor on another level, where it's like we're activist investors in like changing our investments in a good way for the world, not just to maximize profit. This systems approach that every company, operates in a world with everyone else and all these humans and all these other companies and all these animals and nature and wildlife and space and the planet. And there's all these stakeholders and facets we have to consider, not just how can I make the most profit for myself? Is the world going to just burn down? We're like, yo, Chevron's going to the moon. We still use Geico, even though Tesla insurance was safer. But you know what? We all bought Berkshire stock, and Berkshire stock is worth $1 billion a share right now. Yeah, everyone has it, and a coffee costs $10 billion, but dude, Berkshire stock went to $1 billion. You know how much shareholder wealth we created? Like, that's the world I see we're going. Like, the world's just dying, asteroids are hitting it, there's smoke everywhere, like everything's gray and just desolate in this apocalypse. But we're like, dude, Berkshire stock's going up. Look at Robinhood. It's like, that's where we're going, bro? Like, that just sucks. And so that's why I'm like, bro, whack. Like, have you guys seen the movie Idiocracy? This movie's hilarious. If I can give you homework, it's to go watch Idiocracy. This is a movie about the future and how like we all start buying stock in this company called Bronto, which makes like the Gatorade or like Mountain Dew. And then they start feeding their crops with Bronto because that'll be an expansion. Then the crops start dying, but they can't give them water because then Bronto stock will go down. So everybody's like dying and only drinks Bronto, and Bronto takes over the world eventually. But it's like, that's where we're going with all this. If people don't just look at the spreadsheet about how much money they're making, not actually thinking about things. And so I'm dope. I have a lot of hope though, because Wall Street didn't want Tesla to win. Warren Buffett, the people with billions of dollars who could have backed an inspiring, exciting future didn't. They dropped the ball, but guess who picked it up? All of us, all the retail investors, all the little guys who actually gave a shit. We picked up the ball. We bought Tesla stock. We created a liquid market to where Elon Musk could raise the billions of dollars needed to get those cars out the door to actually change the world. Buffett, he didn't do shit. He was buying Chevron stock 2 years after that happened. That's how it's going to go down. And it's like, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I actually have a lot of hope and optimism about the future because of what I've seen in the internet and just how I see all these young hustlers, all these young YouTubers who have stock channels that are talking about, investing in EV companies. SPAC mania is some BS. I hate the fact that all these whack Garbo companies are SPACing and that a lot of these VCs are dumping their losers onto the public market. But guess what? It's a symptom of euphoria. And that euphoria is because humans want to fund a sustainable future. We want to fund electric vehicle companies. There's billions of dollars of pent up capital that wants to fund this future because we know it's where the world's headed. And I love that enthusiasm. And I think Tesla created that, and it's the cat's out of the bag. That's just what's happening now. And I think people are investing in the future they believe in. Buffett still hasn't got the memo, but everyone else has, and we're actually making money doing it. And so, yeah, it just sucks that Buffett's on the losing side of this. So, And like how many, so Tesla went out from $50 billion to almost $1 trillion of market cap. That's $950 billion of wealth creation or whatever. But instead of that going to Goldman Sachs, to Wall Street, to David Einhorn, to Jim Chanos, they ended up paying us billions of dollars, and the stock soared as they covered their short positions, and it created, thousands of millionaires instead of making billionaires into tens of billionaires. And so that's, to me, what also gets me so pumped about Tesla, because what's the butterfly effect of that? What are all these millionaires, instead of being, some old billionaire who got a couple more billion who's still not doing shit with it, now we got all these young kids who didn't have a million bucks but had a million ideas, and now they have the $1 million to execute those. That's awesome. So I'm more optimistic in the future than ever. It just sucks that Buffett's the butt of the joke. That's all. I feel like I'm kind of ending my rant on a good point right now. I love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I think, I don't know. Part of me is like, dude, karma's real. Like, the amount I didn't really think I was going to make any money in Tesla. I was just like, bro, like we need this. This is like our Hail Mary at the future, is actually Tesla winning and this genius guy like coming up with the technology out of thin air to sell millions of EVs. So we just happen to go green and making them dope enough to where everyone buys them. Like the chance of that happening, we need a Hail Mary, bro. Like we needed a Hail Mary to save the planet, and Tesla did it. So like, I can't wait to see. I feel like we haven't seen the people that Elon Musk has inspired come out with their ideas yet. So I really can't wait to see what that is. You know, like, yeah, okay, electric cars, going to space. Those are such big ideas. Neuralink, such big ideas. I hope that Elon Musk is not an outlier and an outsider for those ideas, but that he inspires, you know, dozens or hundreds or thousands of more of these kind of iconic entrepreneurs to push these ideas where the mission of the company is to help the planet and to help humanity and not to just make profit. I really hope that Elon has inspired that change. Because otherwise we're just going to all end up with Bronto. Berkshire stock's going to be at $1 billion, but the world's going to be burning. You know, it's like, oh man. Anyway, I hope y'all have an amazing day. This is my rant. This is Hyper Change. I'm doing some beta testing on our new merch. I couldn't tell if you do this. We got initial hat offering coming up. It's got some nice shine to it. But y'all are all awesome. Invest in the future you believe in. Stay tuned. That thing, he just went to Mars today. Like, dude, how epic is that? This thing, he landed on Mars. Elon scheming on Mars. It's epic. Anyway, I hope y'all are staying safe. Good vibes. Peace out.